All right, let's try this again. Technical difficulties, well, appropriate for a colonial setting. Adam Taxin here in downtown Fredericksburg, Virginia, where it's rather beautiful today, even though 10 minutes ago it was starting to spit, maybe not a full-fledged rainstorm, but it really got beautiful in the last 10 minutes. Not like comparing the conditions even when it was raining to what the son of the woman who lived here late in her life had to go through, or really his troops had to go through in particular. I guess he had a nicer tent at Valley Forge. But that is behind me, the Mary Washington house, where what I will call the grandmother of our country, if George Washington is the father of our country, lived in her later years. It was a home close to where George Washington's sister lived. And I guess she wasn't really the grandmother of the country as far as any descendants of George Washington, because as people often know, George Washington may have been the father of our country. Let's try this angle. But he was not a father himself, so there are no direct descendants of George Washington. And I hope, for example, by the way, Kate Hudden-Tweedy and Dan Burnell in particular are watching this one. Okay, another thing that George Washington can't be remembered for is anything having to do with government being involved in health care. And that's the topic for today. Again, it's often incongruous, but I'm saying it's particularly incongruous today, the setting, because George Washington would have never imagined that the federal government, which he led a war against big, overreaching governments, would be involved in something like healthcare, so-called insurance. And with that introduction, awkward as it may have been at times, but this is real news here, or real analysis more realistically. With that in mind, here's what Keith Levenberg wrote about healthcare, which has been in the news lately. I think it's excellent, and I think you should hear it. So enjoy the site of Mary Washington's house, the Mary Washington House, which has been open for tours for many years. I think this has been a museum for like the last 100 years. I'm not going in there today. I got other things to do. But here is Keith Levenberg on healthcare, really a requiem for the failed bill, the good that it failed bill. Okay, here's what he writes. Republicans in Congress wrote a lousy health insurance bill, and it failed to pass because other Republicans in Congress opposed it. This is good news. 7 years ago, Democrats in Congress wrote a lousy health insurance bill, and they passed it anyway because they knew that once it was lodged in the system, it would be impossible to dislodge, and they could spend the next 100 years passing incremental improvements that accomplished their real goals. Having a political party that can disagree with itself rather than unite to declare war on the other side is a great thing. We never have that when Democrats are in charge. The Republicans who defied their own party leadership to oppose a bad bill struck a blow against the kind of partisanship that has made our politics so nasty. Their profiles encourage. That is more good news. The bad news is that I do not see any prospect for Congress ever passing a non-lousy health insurance law. One of the reasons for this is that Americans do not know how babies are made. A few days ago, the Democrat internet talking point about the evils of RINOCare was that it would, quote, strip away maternity benefits. I am not sure if Democrats actually believe that or if they were lying for nakedly partisan reasons, as they are so often want to do. But I think they really believed it. It was false, of course. The only thing under discussion was eliminating a requirement that every health insurance plan offer maternity benefits. This makes perfect sense. Generally speaking, the unusual exceptions not being relevant here, there are only two types of people who want to have babies, who can have babies. One, people who want to have babies, and two, people who may or may not want to have babies, but who do that thing that can result in babies being made. If you are not a member of either group, say perhaps you are a nun, or you have had a hysterectomy, or you are 80 years old, there is no reason on earth. You left out, Keith, you left out male. There is, biologically male at least, there is no reason on earth why you should want to pay extra for a health insurance plan that offers maternity benefits. By the same token, if you are reasonably confident that you will never become addicted to heroin, you might make the rational decision not to pay extra for a health insurance plan that covers heroin addiction recovery therapies. In the context of maternity benefits, this leads to a very obvious economic problem. If the only people who purchase health insurance plans that offer maternity benefits are the people who anticipate making babies, then the cost of those maternity benefits is going to be roughly equal to the cost of not having insurance and just paying the doctor's sticker price for all your maternity care. It would be like if the only people who purchased fire insurance were people whose houses had just caught on fire. Fire insurance premiums would literally cost as much as a new house. The only way it can make any economic sense to purchase maternity benefits is if the insurance company knows in advance that a significant proportion of the people purchasing those benefits will never make babies. But in the real world, it is very unlikely that a significant enough proportion of the people who never make babies will bother electing maternity benefits. Delivering babies is expensive though, and for the moment let's set aside the question of whether it's inherently expensive or whether it's expensive precisely because it's covered by insurance. We do not, as a matter of public policy, want it to be expensive to have babies. Thus, given that it's expensive to deliver babies, the only way we can achieve our policy goals is to subsidize it. In other words, to redistribute wealth from people not making babies to people making babies. The problem is that insurance, all caps insurance is not designed to be a system for redistributing wealth. It is designed to be a system for hedging against risk. If you want to turn it into a system for redistributing wealth, it's going to be incredibly inefficient because that's not what it's meant to do. It would be like trying to solve the problem of hunger by forcing everyone to buy food insurance and submit their grocery bills for regular reimbursement, rather than simply funding a program to feed the hungry. The one thing you can count on in America is that people will always try to fix a stupid system by making it more stupid. So the preferred Democrat solution to this problem, in other words, what Democrats really want, not the sloppy Obamacare kludge that they only defend when they're arguing with Republicans, is to replace private health insurance with government health insurance. It's still insurance, but it redistributes wealth by paying everyone's expenses out of one pool, and since the pool is funded by taxes, you can accomplish the redistributive part by having the people you want to redistribute wealth. Long sentence. He writes this for reading, not saying. You can accomplish the redistributive part by having the people you want to redistribute wealth to pay less than their equal share in taxes than the people you want. The people you want to redistribute wealth to pay less than their equal share in taxes than the people you want to redistribute wealth from. Hey Keith, take it easy on me next time. When you write something really good, you know there's a good chance I'm going to talk about it on air. So once more, you can accomplish the redistributive part by having the people you want to redistribute wealth to pay less than their equal share in taxes than the people you want to redistribute wealth from. The beneficiaries generally include poor people who don't make enough money to pay taxes and very rich people who make enough money to pay tax lawyers. But it's a stupid system because it's still an insurance system trying to do what an insurance system isn't designed to do. The smart solution is to solve the problem without involving insurance. If solving the problem requires redistribution of wealth, there are plenty of ways to do this without involving insurance. The easiest way to do it would be to start with this. Every citizen should be entitled to a 100% tax credit, not deduction, a full tax credit, regardless of income or assets, for all of their medical expenses, every single penny, both insurance premiums and direct payments to service providers. This would permit a person having a baby to pay $10,000 to her doctor for delivering the baby, instead of having to pay $10,000 in insurance premiums for baby-making coverage, so that the insurance company can make the $10,000 payment to the doctor. If you are a stupid person, your reaction to this is, hey meanie, what about people who suffer from some unexpected condition that ends up costing a fortune? What about poor people who can't even afford $10,000? Haven't you been listening? The former situation is what insurance is for. Exactly what insurance is for. We can have an insurance system that lets people obtain coverage for those unexpected expenses separate from a stupid bureaucracy that routes the payment of expected expenses through bureaucrats and middlemen who naturally want to pick up a few, or a lot of, crumbs for themselves along the way. And the latter problem isn't a healthcare problem or a health insurance problem at all. It's a poverty problem. We can talk about ways to help the poor without talking about what a health insurance plan has to look like. It would be the easiest thing in the world to tax all incomes above X dollars and write a check to everyone earning less than Y dollars out of some portion of the proceeds that doesn't go towards paying for the cops, the army, and NEA grants to fecal-smeared portraits of Christian religious icons. The only reason this isn't happening is that it would force thousands of government bureaucrats to get real jobs doing something productive for society instead of writing regulations about what your health insurance plan has to look like. What? You thought the welfare state was about helping the poor? How naive. In the current year, government services are not about helping the poor. They are about micromanaging the lives of rich and poor alike in order to make work for the people who run the government. That is from Keith Levenberg, and another great writing by Keith Levenberg, who does not do this for a living. He's a successful lawyer at a big firm in DC, but he writes great, even though he makes more money than he could as a writer. And I like to feature his stuff. Thank you, Keith Levenberg, and thank you all for watching. This is Adam Taxin saying goodbye from the Mary Washington House in Fredericksburg, Virginia.